Good morning. Day 3. I'm in a place called Vila de Conde where I arrived last night. Absolutely beautiful morning today. I don't think there's any threat of the rain. So much so that I've got all my sunscreen on, got my sunglasses on already. One thing I wanted to talk about actually, because I met up with 3 American guys yesterday afternoon as I was arriving here. And in the course of the conversation, it turned out one of them knew Hastings well. It's always the case, isn't it? He used to play cricket and probably even played on the old Central Cricket Ground in Hastings. How strange is that? And he's saying about what a nice place Hastings was there. Well, there you go. But one of the other things was that they were carrying what you call day packs, because there are lots of different ways that people approach a Camino, how the pilgrims, as we're known as, approach it. And they had day packs. So what they do is that they carry a day pack, a small rucksack or something like that, for the duration of their walk on that particular day. And then they might have a suitcase or a bigger bag or something like that, which is then sent on from their accommodation each night to their next port of call. You probably can't see it, but I've got a rucksack on here, which is got all my worldly goods in. Everything that I'm using for this sort of 15 day walk to Santiago is in that backpack. A conscious decision on my part. Obviously, that's the traditional, the old way of doing things that people did back in medieval times, etc., etc. But it's also, I just felt that I should do it that way, in a way. I'm not really sure why. I just felt maybe more authentic. I don't mean to be nasty, because he's one of the guys actually. Their packs were almost as big as mine, and that was a day pack. And one of the guys had lost his luggage. He got stranded in Washington DC, and now it's in Lisbon. So he is effectively doing what I'm doing. He's having to live out of his little rucksack. I've obviously on that you have to pack accordingly, because you don't want to be carrying too much weight. I think my rucksack weighs about 6 kilograms without water, admittedly. That includes the weight of the actual pack. So I've just got 3 of everything, 3 pairs of socks, underpants, shirts, 1 pair of shoes, 1 pair of flip-floppy things, this jacket, and a couple of other bits and pieces, obviously, toiletries and things like that. And what you do is that you end up washing everything overnight when you get to your hotel, and you try to wash things, but then you've got to hope that when you get up in the morning that everything's dry. Last night I was in a better hotel than the night before, so that worked all right, and I was able to put stuff out on the balcony and that sort of thing as well. And another point on that actually is where you stay, because I booked, as the Americans did and as a lot of people do, booked all my accommodation, planned my route, etc. before I came. So I know exactly where I'm going, I know where I'm staying. There's that sort of sense of security. But what I have, once again, the traditional old-fashioned way is using what they call albergues, which are basically hostels, especially for pilgrims. You can't get into one unless you are, and you can't really book them in advance either. So you're walking on a whim, which it sounds very, very nice. But obviously it's shared living, and I remember Julie saying she overheard someone saying in the Porto hostel that there were like 3 tiers on the bunks. I don't fancy that. Well, 2 tiers is enough, but then you've got all the snoring and farting and God knows what else and fidgeting that you've got in a dormitory, which is mixed. So I thought, no, as I was saying to the guys yesterday, I'm a bit old for that sort of thing. So that's the proper way of doing it. And we did actually meet a woman literally by Porto Cathedral. She booked her first night's accommodation, and then she was winging it. And there's a lot of solo female travellers, hikers, pilgrims doing this, and I've got so much admiration for them, but anybody that is just winging it as they go. But especially women doing it, and as I said, there are a lot of solo female walkers as well. So well played to them and anyone who's doing the old-fashioned route. So anyway, so I'm going in that sort of direction down there, basically following the coast once again, and to Esposende, and I've no doubt I shall check in as I'm going. Feeling good today after yesterday's walk. I've got a similar distance, if not a bit more today, to do. I think it's getting on for 15 miles today, but hopefully it should be nice. It's a nice day, as I said. Anyway, I'll speak to you later. Bye. Hello, here we are again. I'm in the wind. I'm in a place now called Esposende, which is where I've ended up today. And behind me, you might be able to see all these sort of sand dunes and that. Another river valley, actually. Every place that I've gone to so far that I've stayed in, I've had to cross a river and had to cross a bridge to get there. But today, not that many photos, because actually it rained today. I was saying earlier on, very ironically, about what a lovely start to the day it was. and then once again, you saw these clouds coming over, and then it actually rained quite heavily. And I had to get my sort of poncho out to save myself from the water. And I went in land as well, and then another rain and some more rain later on. So you might be able to hear some music in the back. There's a little market going on there. People murdering English songs, unfortunately. Thankfully, no Beatles yet, because it doesn't matter where you go in the world, they play Beatles for you. But anyway, today was one of those. I've read so much about the Camino as a walk, and how it is about when you go on there, you meet people, pilgrims as you call yourselves, from all over the world, and you make these great friendships, and you meet people and they tell you their life stories and all this sort of. And I thought, right, okay, and none of that had happened. I mean, I've only been walking a couple of days. None of that had happened to me. Bumped into, as I said, some Americans yesterday briefly. And then today, wandering not far from where I started, actually, in Vila de Conde, and just saw this woman sort of looking at her map, and I said, you all right? You know where you're going, type of thing? And then she said, oh, you're the first sort of English person or English voice that I've heard since I've been here. She actually comes, his name's Norma, and comes from Perth in Western Australia. She's 71 years old. So anyway, we just got chatting, and we've been walking together ever since. And if you want to know anything about Norma's life, and just about everything you want to know about it, I'm the man. Just ask me the question and I could tell you. And we were both saying the same thing, actually. You read all these things and you hear all these stories about walking with someone for 10 minutes, and before you know it, you're talking about all these sort of different things that you possibly wouldn't tell anybody else, especially her. And she can talk, but nice, lovely lady. And but yeah, we thought, nah, that ain't going to happen. And then it does, and it sort of reinforces all those things that you read about, the comradeship, the camaraderie, about what everybody's doing, because you're all doing the same thing. You're all walking towards Santiago for various different reasons. Obviously, it is meant to be a religious pilgrimage. I'm not religious in any way. I don't think Norma is either. And to be honest, I think the bulk of the people that are doing this pilgrimage, this walk to Santiago, on whatever route that you're walking, aren't religious anymore. But that's obviously the origins, and where you're going to is the Santiago de Compostela, the cathedral of St. James, where one of Jesus' apostles, supposedly his body is buried in the cathedral. The Santiago means Saint James. Iago is the Spanish for, or Latin for James. So there you go. That's where all that comes from. People do all these things for different reasons, and I'll probably talk about that. We didn't actually talk about that particularly, but you're going along, and then you've got the rain, and you're just sort of passing the time, and it does help. When you've walked about 15 miles, which we obviously both have today, that you realise that the miles are just sort of disappearing because you're chatting. Probably makes you slow down a bit and amble a bit more, and then the rain comes and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's sort of not that either of us, I don't think, were feeling that we were disappointed and it wasn't doing the Camino wasn't doing what we were expecting it to, but we now think, okay, all those things that we read about, all those podcasts that we listened to or videos that we watched, that's real, you know. Because some people don't seem to be bothered about talking. We both said the same thing. We sort of made polite conversation with people, but people are in their own world, people are doing things for different reasons. So anyway, so that's a nice day. Whether we shall see each other or bump into each other again, who knows? And that is one of the beauties of this that I've heard about before, is that you see these people, you have these deep and meaningful and interesting conversations, spend a few hours walking with them, and you might never see them again in your life, you know, who knows? Anyway, so here we are, Esposende, 15 miles-ish. Yes, I can feel it in my legs today, which isn't a great surprise. I knew that today would be harder. Tomorrow I suspect is going to be the bigger one, because that's the day that I walk a similar distance, and it will be 3 days on the trot, something that I'm not used to, something that most people aren't used to when they do something like this. But yeah, it's been good. It's been a good day, and the sun's come back out again, which is nice to hear. Anyway, I shall probably speak to you tomorrow, day 4. Buen camino.